Welcome back. Our next character is characters, basically parentheses. Now they're used in order to store groups of commands inside of them. And you should also keep in mind that a group of commands inside of it will start a subshell, and the variables inside of it cannot be read by the script. So that can be problematic. Let me just show you what I mean. We will have a separate part where we will deal with subshells. I will explain them in far greater detail there, but let me just show you what I mean by this with a practical example. If I type in var equals 5, and then down below we will use this, again we will use the same variable and we will initialize it to some different number, let's say 10, and of course we will have this at the end, semicolon, because these are groups of commands, so you put 1, 2, 3, 4, as many as you like. And now let's go ahead and echo out the value. So the value of var. Think about it. Which value will it actually print out? Will it be 5 or will it be 10? Let's run the script down below and see. 5. Why? Because as I just said, these initializations, these variables cannot be interpreted or read, well, cannot be read by the script. Now, parentheses are also used for array initialization. What are arrays? You need not bother with that now. Why? Because I shall explain it later. It is a bit more of a, I wouldn't say complex term, but something that definitely comes a little bit later. It's not, those are not the late stages, but just a little bit later. So for example, if we have an example, if we have something like this, so colors equals, and we have red, white, and brown, and what shall we use next? Purple, etc. Doesn't matter. This is sufficient for an example. So this is an initialized array with these values. And if we wanted to print it out, we actually used this before. If you remember, in our for loop, in one of the examples where I actually used a for loop. So basically colors now has these values. So red, white, brown, and purple. And depending on how you want to print them out, you can separate them, or you can print them out all on one line or something like that. Whatever you wish. We basically did this a little bit before, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I just want to show you how these parentheses are used. So basically put one here, and then you close it at the end, and then you write the values of this array. Basically, first position, second position, third position, fourth position. Simple enough. We will deal with arrays in a separate tutorial. I do believe it is better like that, so that you can understand it a bit easier. These next few characters, they will be rather simple. For example, you have curly brackets, which go like this. But then you have a format in which the information is actually written in between them. We can use the color example again, actually. You can type in echo space, and then we shall use these escape characters along with a $sign, and in between let's write what shall we write? Test 1, test 2, test 3. Excellent. So now we can go ahead and close this and use a $sign again. I know it is a bit of a strange usage, but what will happen here is that it will output all enclosed elements, and they will all have a prefix of a $sign, as though they had a prefix of a $sign. So another nice usage of a $sign. Let me just show you this. You see, it has one, and then it has it at the beginning, and it has it at the end. It has it at the beginning. It has it at the end. I don't know, because you have these escape characters here. You see escape character, and then you have something in here. This doesn't necessarily need to be a $sign, but I just placed it there just so that you can see that it is not always true if you have a $sign that it is necessarily a value. So you basically just put it here, and that's it. With the escape character, I could have placed something else here, like for example quotation marks here. Actually, let me just go ahead and put the quotation marks just to show you. Oops. There you go. Let's go ahead and output it. Hey, wait, what do you know? We have quotation marks at the beginning and at the end of each and every one of these statements. So this is just one of the ways in which this can be used. Another example would be when you want to actually output the contents of multiple files into one. So what would you do? I can actually exit here to quit. Do you remember how we use the cat command? So if we cat first.sh, we will see that there is some sort of a code in it. But what if we had, for example, multiple files, and we would like to take whatever is in those multiple files and output it, take it basically from them and put it into a single file? How would we do that? Well, you would use cat, and then you would use these curly brackets. You would type, I don't know, some test file 00, and I don't know, test file 01. I don't have these files, they don't exist, I haven't created them. I'm just typing it in as an example of how I want it to be. And imagine that you had like maybe 10 more of those. I would use a redirection, and I would redirect it to some file that I wanted to redirect it to, which would be test 00, and we shall change this to 01 and 02. So I know I have a bit of a weird name. So I have one file here, and I have another file here, and I would like to output their contents with cat, but I don't want to type it. I don't want to output each file individually. I want to output them all, and to do this in one line, to issue a command which will do this for us in one line. So this is the one line I'm referring to, not the output. We would need to use these curly brackets, curly parentheses, however they're called. So you just do that, and you put as many files as you like here, and then you redirect your output into this file, and there it will actually be stored. Quite convenient at times. You can rest assured of that. Anyway, there are some other examples with this. Feel free to play around as much as you want, but here's another one which can be rather interesting. You can create a loop without a loop. I know, sounds strange when I put it in like this. So instead of writing some sort of a for loop or a while loop or something like that, if you just need a quick output, for example, of a certain amount of numbers, of a certain range of numbers, you would just do this, echo, and then 1 dot, 2 dots to 10. Let's go ahead and type in 0 and 9. You can go from 1 to 10 if you like. You can go from 1 to 100, whatever. Just giving examples. And this will output all the numbers in between them. So this will output a range. So you see, you have a 0, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you have a 9 at the end. So this is very convenient. It's a very fast way of writing things as opposed to actually creating an entire loop. It is not something that you really want to do. Now there is another way of using these curly brackets, and that is separating a piece of code. So they can represent a block of code. This will create basically an anonymous function, a term not that well known to you now, but hopefully by the end of this course you will be very familiar with it. But unlike the standard function, in which the variables defined are hidden to the remainder of the script, the variables inside this block of code will remain visible completely. So here's what I mean by it. Let me just give you an example. It's always better that way. So if we have var1, for example, equals to 1, and var2 is equal to 2, and now we would like to create a separate piece of code here, and we shall use the exact same variables like we have before with parentheses. So var1 is equal to 10, and var2 is equal to 12. This is going to be 11 for easy referencing. And let's go ahead and close this. Then echo $sign var1 var2. Okay, so what do you think we will see? Shall we see the values 1 and 2, or shall we see the values of 11 and 12? Think about it for a second, pause the video if you like, but don't think about it too long. Let's run it. So we shall see values 11 and 12, because as I said, this actually makes it visible, even though it is a separate line of code, so no big deal. Anyway, I shall cut the tutorial here and continue in the follow-up.